Howdy heretics, I'm not wearing a hat today because fortune favors the bold. Jehovah Witnesses have a lobby organization called European Association of Jehovah Witnesses that basically claim to be some kind of important non-profit to protect human rights and freedom. And this organization is just an in-house department at Bethel that basically just, when they lost a court case, they send out them to lobby to try to get the government to make an exception to the existing law, stuff like that. But it's basically the same people as lost the first court case that then put on the hat of being lobbyist for human rights and freedom. And those people asked the Norwegian ombudsman for the work to protect any citizen from discrimination. It's a valid and important job to do. And they asked for a meeting with him, and I was invited because I invited myself. Hence the expression, fortune favors the bold. Because even though I disagree with Jehovah Witnesses, and a lot of the things they say misrepresent facts, they actually do have a point. My point is to protect children. Their point is to get money even though they don't protect children. But the ombudsman work for that Norway without discrimination. And I think that there are other religions than Jehovah Witnesses that don't treat children well. So I say I will go there and help them to protect all children. And in the end, it's up to the ombudsman to see if I can come. But fortune favors the bold, and there's no rule against inviting yourself to the meeting that Jehovah Witnesses arrange at the back chambers at the government. Why wouldn't I be invited? I'm a delightful guy. So if you watch this video to the beginning, if you have a big warm heart, you will love this video. If you listen to the end, because we're talking about how Jehovah Witnesses lost in Norway and how they won in Finland, and then a little bit about Sweden. So in this letter we can see here Jehovah Witnesses, or the European Association of Jehovah Witnesses, write a letter to the ombudsman and claim that they have been discriminated against. And they say that we are the only one that lost our registration. And that is a misrepresentation, because they're not the only one. They are the first one. Every time the government change a legislation, and if they make something illegal, someone will be the first one to be prosecuted and the first one to be convicted. That doesn't mean that he is the only one and therefore it's discrimination. It means he's the first one. Jehovah Witnesses claim that this is arbitrary, it only happened to them, and that's where I agree with them. I don't think it's arbitrary, but I think that other people are not as much under scrutiny, because Jehovah Witnesses have what I call a great crowd of apostates. They have been abusing children, I would say, based on my experience, and therefore people grow up, they deprogram themselves, they rebuild their life, and they start to be lobbyists, and they explain to the government what is happening. Well, that means there's a 40 to 50 year drag between when the crime occurred to when an organization loses money, and that is obviously not good enough. And you could argue that the reason why Jehovah Witnesses are the first one to lose the government funding is because of their size and because of their ability to educate their members to be very good at never stop knocking at doors. So the Norwegian apostates, we have been knocking at doors at the government, and we'll learn how to be well articulate thanks to the theocratical ministerial school. So what if there's a cult that teach their members to be timid, to be afraid of public spaces, so on and so forth? They will not lose their government funding. So you could argue, it's a stretch, but you could argue that it's arbitrary. But that doesn't mean Jehovah Witnesses should get their money. In this letter to the Ombudsman, Watchtower write that them losing their registration, it breaks with a 30-year tradition. Well, that's irrelevant. What they should tell him is that a few years ago the Norwegian government changed the legislation so that all religions must respect human rights. Hashtag all religions must. They must respect human rights. If they don't respect the rights of others, they cannot get government funding, because if the government fund an organization that doesn't respect others' rights, they are complicit. Just like I cannot give money to the Al-Qaeda, the government cannot give money to Jehovah Witnesses. But when Watchtower says it's arbitrary, I would agree to a certain extent, because if you have a small cult with only 100 members, you can make a good living by abusing people and their children. And the government will never find out, because the chances of you getting several well-articulated apostates working day and night with no pay to stop you is not there. So Watchtower, they are interested in getting their money back. I'm interested in protecting the children, and the ombudsman is interested to make sure that nothing's arbitrary. So I said, let's sit down with Jehovah Witnesses and make some kind of internal document on how we should treat children good. And once a year we fill out this, we make sure that all our eternal routines are good, and then we show this to the government. And all religions should have the same document to make sure best practice. If the ombudsman think this is a good idea, people much more professional than me will be invited and do this. Psychologists, people that knows about children growing up in cult, all those people that know better than me. So it probably ends with, best case scenario, I get a thank you note. That's what normally happens. But if there's a document that say, how do we do this? How do we do that? How do we this? And every religion has to hand it in every year. Maybe they also should have an insurance. If I'm driving a car, I need an insurance in case I hit a child. Why can a cult working with children do that without an insurance? If they needed to be insured, the insurance company would make sure they don't do the worst crazy stuff. I think it could help something. At least that's my pitch to the government. And remember that every time Watchtower asks for a meeting with a government official in the back room, you can invite yourself and maybe it will work. But look at this this letter here. The funny thing is, you see it's written in English, and the guy who signed it is a Norwegian. So if you know anything about Jehovah Witnesses, is that they speak Spanish to you if you speak Spanish. If you lived in Norway for 500 years, but your last name is Hernandez, we will speak Spanish to you because you will be in our illegal register of people with Spanish sounding names. The same if you're Polish, Russian, we have lists of people. But when it comes to this government official in Norway, the Kingdom of Norway, where we speak Norwegian, they'll write the letter in English because it sounds a little bit more fancy. But it's signed by a Norwegian guy I know, and the other guy is probably English. And if you are a Norwegian and you talk English like this, it can be a little intimidating when it comes someone that speaks Oxford English. So I just think it's a way of pretending to be more serious and bigger than you are, while in fact you're not. You're just an in-house lobby from the Scandinavian or different European battle. It's themselves, representing themselves. They always write that they are recognized as law-abiding citizens. Recognized by whom? Have you ever... I'm a law-abiding citizen. You get a medal for being law-abiding? Do the government have a registry of law-abiding citizens? The Holy Spirit lives in New York, USA. So this letter go back and forth from Norway, where the money is, to New York, where the Holy Spirit is. And then, well, the Holy Spirit made a little mistake. It says here that Jehovah Witnesses lost their funding the 3rd of April, while in fact it was the 4th of March. And as we know, the Holy Spirit is American and use a different system. So they move it around and then the Holy Spirit forgot it. So it's the wrong date. It's a little bit fun. Not even the Holy Spirit is perfect. But my point is, if they would just do the good thing and treat children with love and human beings with love and treat worldly people as good as worldly people treat them, this problem would solve itself. So in fact, maybe I can help them. This or another meeting. Before I give you the good news about Sweden, I will tell you the bad news about Finland, where our brother Jari-Pekka the apostate lost in court and Watchtower won. Please keep in mind that I am not a Finnish person. I don't speak Finnish. I'm also not a lawyer, and I'm an amateur YouTuber. So everything I say should be taken with a big spoon of extra strong apostate salt. But you know the general picture. Watchtower is out in media claiming that we don't shun. Because deep down they know that shunning is a crime. It has nothing to do with religious freedom. It has everything to do with power and discipline in a multi-billion-dollar organization. I think the first time Watchtower spoke about shunning, they referred to it as an ecclesiastical weapon to achieve secular power. That was back in a day where Jehovah's Witnesses didn't do shunning, and it was the Catholic who did it. I think they called it that. Ecclesiastical weapon to achieve secular terror. Yeah, secular terror doesn't sound very nice. I would say it's a crime. Anyway, Watchtower normally say that we don't shun, and I guess that's what they did in Finland, because our brother Jari-Pekka went to a Zoom meeting and filmed it. He made the audio public together with pictures of the elders, and they claimed he violated their privacy. I say no, because if you choose to be on a Kingdom Hall, or in this case Zoom, because as a substitute for Kingdom Halls during Corona, it's a public meeting and you have a public face. This is now a public face. If I say something stupid, which I most likely have already, you're allowed to put my face out in media and give me criticism. And if I agree, if I was wrong, I will be the first one to apologize. That's not the point. The point is, if you're a public person, a politician like Joe Biden or Donald Trump, if they say something stupid and it's of general interest, I can publish that. So can Jehovah's Witnesses, and so can Jari-Pekka the apostate. But since he lost, he has to pay about 20,000 euro in legal fees, and that's much for a senior citizen. So look at him here, and look at this guy, Joni Valkela. He arranged this GoFundMe, where we tried to find 10,000 euro for this poor guy. So we would pay half of his bill. And I think, wouldn't that be a nice Christmas gift? Can you repeat after me? Iloista joulua. Iloista joulua. Iloista joulua means Merry Christmas in Finnish. Wouldn't that be nice to send him a Christmas gift? Normally we're 2,000 people watching my videos. If 1,000 of them would find in their heart to give him $10, imagine, huh? What a nice Christmas he would have. So say after me, Iloista joulua, and go to GoFundMe if you can afford it and give him $10. How did Watchtower win on this? That these elders that are the public face of an organization would have privacy in a public meeting. How did Watchtower win on that? Well, this is my speculation, and the speculation is based on the fact that I've been to a court case like that where Watchtower used this argument. Their argument was that this was a family event. Normally, especially in a Zoom meeting, I guess it's quite easy to prove that this elder was related to the congregation or related to a big part of the congregation and had friendship for many years with the rest, so it was basically a family gathering. Because there are different rules for a family gathering than a public meeting. That's common sense. Look at this picture. This is from the Jehovah Witness Convention in Stockholm. And would you describe this as a family event or a public event? Because I have been in court where a representative from Jehovah Witnesses, he was talking about this event as a family event. A family went with only Jehovah Witnesses. And he said under oath, I don't remember, he said something like, if a non-Jehovah Witnesses would appear, he would stick out like a piece of butter in a bag of coal. I think that was his word. Doesn't really mean anything, because if a person stick out as butter in a bag of coal, doesn't mean he's asked to leave. And if you were a Jehovah Witness, at least in Sweden where I grew up, we used to say that before the convention, everyone in Sweden deserved to get an invitation to the convention. So try to describe this huge event as a family event is disingenuous. And in this case, it was a court case, because if you have a family event, different rules apply. If you want to have Thanksgiving with your family and a big event with a big family, you can do that. But if you want to have a public event, well, then there's an agency that work with food security and health issues. They will come and look at your kitchen. There's a fire department that will make sure that you have fire exits, and then there's a standby parking lot for the fire brigade. So if something happens, there's a spot where the fire brigade can park, stuff like that. And if you have a cinema, you need to have the movies rated, because there might be children watching without the parents. So having a public event is a different thing than a family event. And Jehovah Witnesses obviously did not have their videos rated. It's not a thing about freedom of speech. They have freedom of speech. It's just you cannot show everything to a minor child. That's what the law is, to protect children. So children can't vote anyway. So in order to win this trial, Jehovah Witnesses described this event in an event like this in this arena here as a family event. And that is obviously not absolutely true. So I want you to look at these two guys, and I'll come back to them later, because every time Jehovah Witnesses build something or have a convention or arrange something, they always say this story about how exceptional they were one way or another. They will say that, oh, there was a bricklayer who said, if my company would build a wall like this, it would take 15 highly trained professionals 500 years, but you have done it in 10 minutes. From a human perspective, it would not be possible. Or there's an industrial expert that say, well, from a human perspective, this would never be possible. You remember those stories? They would always tell those stories. Or someone came and said, I have worked 100 years on a very prestigious university. Could I please take one of these flyers and show to my students? I have never seen any more wisdom in my life. You know, these stories of things being exceptional? Well, obviously you have this in this convention too. Let's listen. This time the experts are impressed of our sound.
There are 4 languages and 3 sign languages, and all this have to be tied together and work at the same time. It has been a challenge, but we made it work.
All the experts argued that it would be impossible to have 4 languages at one arena.
This is Lars Kassholm. Kassholm is a person that I absolutely love. He's a super nice guy. I don't understand why he stayed in the cult. Every Jehovah Witnesses in Sweden love him, including the apostates. Every time I see him at a protest, I say, hello, Kassholm, and he doesn't say hello, but he smile and wave, and he's actually, honestly, a nice guy. But the story here is that we were having 4 languages in the same arena, and they said it wouldn't be possible. The worldly experts said it couldn't be possible. Well, do you think they conveniently forget not to mention who made the sound system. You know who made the sound system? The worldly experts. So what happened is that Jehovah Witnesses wanted 4 languages. The worldly people say, well, that's complicated. You have to pay extra. Then the witnesses got an invoice and paid it. But they always make it sound like, this is clearly a sign of Jehovah's Holy Spirit. Ooh. I hope they pay the invoice, but it's kind of charming they always do that trick. But I look at this guy again. He worked hard. Being an apostate is not a paid job for most people. It's a lot of work, and the time you spend is worth more than the money. But he's a senior citizen, and we're trying to get 10,000 euro for him. So can start with a nice Christmas gift, right? Iloista Euroa, and give him $10 or more if you want. But I think I love my subscribers, and I think if the people who watch this, if we're 1,000 apostates and we give him $10 each, can you imagine what a difference it makes for him? Yeah? Eloista Joloa, we're still brothers and sisters, and we can do a lot of good to help the children. So if you like this video, leave a comment. It makes me happy. So, Eloista Joloa, and see you in paradise.